Hello, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the slideshow I created. One of the things when you're trying to engage online, it's obviously if you know how are you going to interact where you can explain things where students can hear your voice and maybe see you. And so I'm doing one of a number of ways to screencast. And so this is a slideshow I made to kind of showcase some things that people have presented about ways to explain what kind of student created media there is. And also, there's a diagram here which talks a little bit about the inquiry process, where if we're going to empower students, we're going to begin with a driving question. And that search to find a solution is hopefully what we want to have the students engage in. This next slide here was just some examples that I found. And rather than sit here and play the videos, there's 4 videos here. This one here is a mashup video of scenes that students used where they took one scene with a green screen and another scene and tried to just mash them up. It was kind of a technical lesson. We focus on making films and uploading, and so this is a student-made how-to when students in the class were having a hard time getting their own made videos outside of Flipgrid into our website for Flipgrid. She was able to make this for me. I actually asked, I said, there's a lot of people that are having a hard time. You seem to have a lot of videos up. Could you do a how-to? And so she did her own screencast. This one over here is a good example of a student being inspired in another class. I believe it was a science class, but it could have been ELA. This student made a slideshow that kind of goes through and reviews this web page and teaches you a little bit about how you can find your impact on the earth and hopefully help people to reflect about it. And this last one right here is a film that we featured on the Parker channel that was a student-made film, about just under a minute long. And like I said, if you wouldn't mind watching one or more of these just to kind of think about what kind of is this a way that students can create, and if not, what other digital kinds of creations could you make if you're having a portion of your class be online. The thought comes up about like what are some strategies that could support the creators that we are trying to cultivate in our classroom, and there's just a bunch in this slide 4 where some of the ones that really stick out that would help to support creators is the to, with, and by, which I've seen teachers do in PD, and when I'm at my best, I remember to do that kind of lesson. I think a lot of times that the relationship that you have with students can sometimes power them to excel. It can also power them through difficult times where they might not engage, but they would do it for you because you have that special relationship. And the driving question portion, I think, is a lot about creating a question or having them create a question that touches on their interests, that's going to drive them through the learning. So I'm not going to go through all of these because you're probably more of an expert on a lot of these than I am even, but these are just some things to kind of refer back to as we kind of move forward. And this one, I guess I would have to explain if there wasn't some videos on the previous page about students actually offering tech support to other students, and that's very empowering to them because they're sharing their work to other audiences. And even though they're the students that may be in the room with them, but they're also the students that come in years and years after, and I use that video to teach them or to help them out. There's some lessons that I'm going to highlight later on coming up, and so this is one of the launches that I've used for one of the lessons I've talked about a little bit, which was called our Chat Pack project. And one of the really great things about this launch was, we talked about each one of these questions, which is kind of usually a way to get a talk or a discussion going at a table. And like if you had the time and money and could go on any month-long summer adventure of your choice, what would you choose to do? Some tables just chose that, and I asked those small groups to start talking about that. But sometimes that wasn't the question that they would want to do. And so I feel like if I was forcing them into we're all discussing this, it's a good chance it would be successful, but it might be more successful if I give them two choices. If they wanted to talk about a field or a profession or something that they used in their imagination, and maybe kind of an obscure, absurd one where if you had to sign your name kind of in a different way, what would you do? And it was just a really great thing to see this conversation. And in an online course, you might wonder how can students do that kind of interaction, and it might be a challenge. So we might have to come up with some creative ideas. But as you've seen, we've already used the discussion format, and there are some ways to put students in work groups online. And so they may not be discussing at the same time, but they may discuss in a different way and even keep some things a little bit deeper or go a little deeper in some areas. And then finally, there's one that I really, really enjoyed, which was the If Then Adventure Stories, which was, kind of funneled students into this format of telling a story, but there was it was all based on choices, and it was all meant to help or meant to cause the audience to interact. And thank you for checking out this Power of Student Created Media. The slideshow should be listed on the same page as it, and let's move on.